Hi everybody. I hope this video finds everyone in good spirits and doing well. The main thrust of this video is in response to Samuel Hurd's little talk about is your best good enough, and I'm really only going off of the clip that Vinnie Vincent put up on his channel because, to be honest with you, I'd rather have root canal without any painkiller than to listen to these governing idiots on JW broadcast, because it's just that painful for me. Because this stuff is so easily debunked now. If you just pay attention and listen to what they're saying, you can certainly see them speaking out of both sides of their mouth. A really good example is Tony Morris. I'm going to play a clip from the governing body update, April 16th, 2021. Just listen to what Tony Morris is saying in this clip.
Likewise, we follow the Spirit's lead. Of course, it's not provided through visions, but through evidence in the field. The recent evaluation showed that some foreign language and indigenous language groups and congregations had existed for years and yet had few or no publishers who were dependent on the language. In other cases, the territory was very scattered, so publishers and pioneers had to travel long distances to find someone who could speak the language. Despite all of this effort, there were few Bible studies and few interested ones, if any, who attended meetings. What was Jehovah's Spirit telling us? It would be better to use our efforts in other fields. Thus, such groups, and congregations were dissolved. Have you been personally impacted by this evaluation? If so, you're not alone. For example, as a result of the evaluation, in just 16 branch territories, some 4,700 elders, 2,800 ministerial servants, and 11,000 regular pioneers have been made available to serve in other fields. At one time, we may have thought that the largest increase was taking place in foreign language or indigenous language fields, but as we've considered the matter more carefully, it seems that congregations in the main languages of many countries are experiencing the largest numbers of newly baptized disciples. So, if you're now returning to a congregation in one of the main languages of your country, remember that you are needed there. Many congregations are struggling to cover their large territories. In major cities, there may be millions of people to reach, but few publishers and pioneers available to preach.
We are thrilled about this development. There is also excitement about public witnessing using literature carts, and with such great success. No, the financial circumstance has nothing to do with a lack of spirituality or appreciation. However, there are some facts that we want to make you aware of. For one thing, the financial needs in the field have accelerated at a pace unlike any time in the recent past. A recent analysis of the need for kingdom halls here in the United States showed that some 1,600 new kingdom halls or major renovations are needed, not sometime in the future, but right now. And worldwide, we are in need of more than 14,000 places of worship not including ongoing future growth.
Did you hear the doublespeak? They're growing by leaps and bounds in these cities, but yet they don't have enough people to cover their territory. It's just nonsense when these guys speak. They're so delusional into thinking that, God is directing us in this direction, and God is, telling us to go here, and God is telling us to go there. When is it that your God's going to tell you you're done? This nonsense is through. But do you hear what he's saying? Listen to intently. Go back and listen to it. You hear exactly what he's saying. That they don't even have enough people to do the preaching work. Remember, it wasn't all that many years ago in the past that they were bragging. There were so many Jehovah's Witnesses in some of these larger cities that their territory only consisted of maybe 2 city blocks. Oh my, how you have crumbled since then, Aunt Mo, because it's just this simple. And it really does tie in with Samuel Hurd's little talking about, is your best good enough? And the very thing that the Watchtower Bible Crap Society discourages is having a competitive spirit. How many of us have encouraged our kids to go out for school sports? Oh, no, you can't do that because, it creates a competitive spirit. But yet when they give a talk such as what Hurd did, it very much creates a competitive spirit. But the thing is, Jehovah's Witnesses, it's not your goals that you're setting for yourself. It's their goals that they're trying to impose upon you. The problem with what Hurd did is he went to an illustration of runners in a race. So that's very much a competitive sport, isn't it? And he talks about, the second guy, the guy that took second place, only losing the race by, a fraction of an inch or whatever the hell it was that he said. I'm just kind of going off of memory right here. But I do get the whole thrust of it because it's not the first time I've even heard that. But the problem that this is going to create in the mind of a Jehovah's Witness by using an illustration of runners in a race is that what Samuel Hurd does not put in this illustration as a qualifier is that guy that lost the race, he may have put his very best into running that race. But as long as he runs a race with the guy that won the race, the second place guy will never take first place. And the reason being, because the guy that won the race has a 4-inch longer stride. The mathematics don't support the illustration that this knucklehead is using. The pure mathematics tells you, no matter how hard you run, you're not going to beat somebody that has a longer stride than you do in that situation. So that illustration falls flat on its face. And the reason being is because Watchtower is trying to get Jehovah's Witnesses to put on their goals for you instead of you setting your own goals. When you talk about being the best you can be, is your best good enough? You have to recognize that you've got to establish your own measure, your own yardstick, what you are going to be willing to live with. And if you can see where you can improve, then make that improvement on your own. Don't let somebody set that goal for you. Okay? Before I get into some scriptures also debunking these morons, I do want to talk a little bit about self-imposed goals. Now, a lot of you know, some of you may not, that for many, many decades I've been competitively shooting with black powder guns. I've been competing throwing knives and tomahawks. And yes, I've taken national championships and I've placed second in national championships. I'm not the best shooter. I'm not the best knife and tomahawk thrower. I'm certainly not the worst. But when I have to, I can hold my own against anybody. For me, that's a real balanced approach in the concept of, is your best good enough? So when I shoot my flintlock rifle, I have a self-imposed goal that if I can get my shots within a 3 to 4 inch circle, now keep in mind this is with a flintlock offhand, so I don't have a rest to hold it. I've got to steady myself. The target that I'm about to show you is a target that's probably probably about 9 years old at this point, maybe even 10. This particular target is 50 yards offhand with a flintlock. And this is what I was able to accomplish. 2 shots per target. Now, as you can see, here I put 2 shots in the black. I put 1 shot in the black. I missed it here. I hit the black here. I nicked the black here, and here's a flyer. For me, I can do better than this. This is not one of my best, but I don't get discouraged when I shoot like that. I can see where I can improve, and it's not the firearm, it's myself, training myself to be more steady. That takes practice. Same rendezvous a year later, same target, same distance, only this time 1 shot per target. As you can see, I hit the black, hit the black, hit the black, hit the black, I missed the black. So that's 4 out of 5. Okay, now there's a reason why I'm talking about a self-imposed goal, especially for me when I shoot like this, because I am very, very satisfied with those 4 hits, and I'll qualify that in just a moment. The following year after that, same target, same distance, same rifle. Again, I missed the black, I hit the black, I hit the black, I hit the black, I hit the black. Now this is with a flintlock, so there's always a momentary delay, okay? Now more locally, at another rendezvous here locally, this one was done in 2017 with a flintlock. But this is 30 yards offhand. Here again, I put 2 in the 1 inch circle, and I put 1 within the 3 inch circle. For me, I'm not going to expect anything better, because that falls within my self-imposed goal. My own measurement of what I wish to accomplish. Okay? 2018, same rifle. Year later, bullseye, in the 2 inch circle, and I hit the 3 inch circle. 30 yards offhand. Now I changed a rifle. I went to my percussion rifle, which is a much more quicker firing black powder gun. And in 2019, this was my target. Everything is within that 2 inch circle. I don't expect to do any better than this, because my self-imposed goal is being able to put everything within the 3 inch circle. Because if I was in a hunting situation and I was aiming for, say, the heart, I would have made meat. That's my personal goal. I don't expect to do anything better than this. I don't expect to do anything better than this. I don't expect to do anything better than this, because I've hit my main requirement, being able to place my shot and hit the organ that I'm aiming for. The problem with Watchtower is that the goal that they try to set for you, you're never going to achieve it, because you will always walk away from this organization knowing that you didn't put your best forth, and the circuit overseers play a huge part in that nonsense. Because how many of us can recall when a circuit overseer comes by, and we all know what his main goal is to get your field service hours up. You know, you got to do your best for Jehovah. But yet they'll inevitably use that scripture that says, whatever it is that you're doing, be at it whole souled as if to Jehovah. So the circuit overseer will read that, and then he'll mouth off some nonsense by saying, now brothers and sisters, if you don't have the pioneer spirit, can you say you're really being whole souled? And how many of us in the audience went, no, I really don't have the pioneer spirit, so I'm not good enough. Because they inevitably set the goal so high, it's unattainable. It literally is. Because Watchtower's goal is not to make you become the best you can be. It's set so that they, the organization, can be the best that they can be. And they actually fail miserably. You know, we talk about a competitive spirit. How is it not a competitive spirit when Watchtower decades ago was pointing the finger at the Catholic Church and condemning the Catholic Church for moving their child CSA priest to another parish? See? Watchtower bashed the Catholic Church for just moving priests from parish to parish and not taking care of the CSA problem. Oh, see what they were doing? Pointing the finger at someone else for the very damn thing that they are being exposed to have been doing. But that's still a competitive spirit, isn't it? Because they want to be the only true religion. They want to be the one that Jehovah blesses. They want to be the one who inherits the throne with Jesus in heaven. That's a competitive spirit right there. They're not happy just being who and what they are. They have to go on a seek and destroy mission. But it's very interesting that when you take a close look at what the Bible says, how easy it is to debunk Watchtower's rhetoric. How they are not the best that they can be. I want to draw your attention to something that Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians chapter 9. Because this is something that the Watchtower does use quite often. 1 Corinthians chapter 9, and we're going to start at verse 24. But the critical part, the key part, we'll focus on in just a moment. Do you not know that the runners in a race all run, but only one receives the prize? Run in such a way that you may attain it. So we all know this is the illustration that Herd is referring to. Moreover, every man taking part in a contest exercises self-control in all things. Now they, of course, do it that they may get a corruptible crown. Okay, first of all, you got to understand what's really going on when Paul's writing this. He's comparing what we now know to be the Pauline Christians and the Jewish Christians that were still holding, to the law that Jesus took out of the way and nailed it to the cross. This is what this argument's about. Because there were Jews still holding to the Mosaic law. Even though Jesus converted Paul and Paul said Jesus took it out of the way. You don't have to live by the law no more. And if you still live by the law, then you are receiving a corruptible crown. That's a competitive spirit right there, isn't it? Going on. But we, an incorruptible crown. Speaking of the Pauline Christians. Verse 26, therefore, The way I am running is not uncertainly. The way I am directing my blows is so as not to be striking the air. I'm going to stop right there because we know that Watchtower uses this scripture quite a bit. If you're going to go out in service, make sure that you have a very productive day. Yada, yada, yada. However they want to use it at the time, they will use it. The point being is that don't misdirect your blows as to be striking the air, striking at nothing. In other words, make your content have some value. Well, how does that work, Watchtower? How does your content not project you striking at thin air and missing the target, such as the generation in 1914 will not pass away until all these things occur, including the Great Tribulation. See, way back when, that generation in 1914, well, you would have had to been, I don't know, maybe 12, 14 years old to be at the age of understanding. Well, as that generation grew older, you took another swing at it. See, you would have had to just, maybe been 8 or 10 is now the age of understanding. And as that generation continued to die, you took another swing. Well, you would have just had to have been born in 1914 to be of that generation. Your blows were striking the air. And now that generation is dead and gone, bygone years, well, that generation is overlapping because Jesus said so. You've completely missed your target, you knuckleheads. You've completely swung at thin air. Think about it, Jehovah's Witnesses. Think about it. That generation is dead and gone. That whole Watchtower theology generation in 1914 was nothing but hot air coming out of this organization. They were literally striking at nothing. Every time they flip-flop a doctrine, they're striking at thin air. Every target that they aim for, they miss. But there's reasons for that. And part of the reason is Jehovah's Witnesses, and I'll take my part of the blame because I donated money to this organization. I take part of that blame. Let's see. Let's go to 1 Timothy chapter 6, and we're going to read verses 9 and 10. 1 Timothy 6, 9 and 10. Because this is where the blame falls back on every single member of every Christian church that has a nut job minister. It's plain and simple because you are responsible for this, just like I was. 1 Timothy 6, starting at verse 9. However, those who are determined to be rich fall into temptation and a snare and many senseless and hurtful desires. Or how about doctrines? Okay? Senseless and hurtful desires which plunge men into destruction and ruin. For the love of money is the root of all sorts of injurious things. And by reaching out for this love, some have been led astray from the faith that have stabbed themselves all over with many pains. You see, when any religious nutjob leader says, you gotta give, help us build kingdom halls in less affluent countries, help us build a new branch, we need a new branch, yeah, all they're doing is showing their love of money. Because you open up your purses and you keep giving, and you keep giving, and you keep giving. In fact, brothers and sisters, don't accept your Christmas bonus. But if you do, make sure Jehovah gets part of that. However they put all that nonsense together. But see, because we kept contributing, because you keep contributing, you are feeding their love of money. Look and see what happens when you stop contributing to these people, to these charlatans. Okay? But Paul, if you will, assuming like everyone else does, Paul wrote that. He wrote something else at 2 Timothy chapter 2, verses 4 through 6. Because it goes beyond just the love of money, Jehovah's Witnesses, governing body, ANTMO. It also encompasses this scripture, 2 Timothy 2, starting at verse 4. No man serving as a soldier. Now remember, they are soldiers of Christ, aren't they? Every minister out there, from young to old, they're all soldiers of Christ. Every single one of them. No man serving as a soldier involves himself in the commercial business of life. No man serving as a soldier involves himself in the commercial business of life. How is not being involved with the United Nations not a commercial enterprise, a commercial endeavor, Watchtower? How is getting the Jehovah's Witnesses, to falsely donate under the pretense we're going to build kingdom halls for our brothers and sisters in more poor countries? Oh, by the way, you all heard Aunt Mo say, we're going to sell kingdom halls. We're going to move people around and sell off all these kingdom halls. They're in a commercial enterprise as a soldier of Christ. Going on, in order that he may gain the approval of the one who entitled him as a soldier. Oh, so Jesus picked you to sit on the 144,000 thrones, but yet you disqualify yourselves by being involved in the commercial businesses of life. Guys, it's just this simple. It's not difficult. If you're still a JW inside the Watchtower Babel prison, just bear in mind there are more and more people leaving this prison that the Watchtower trapped you in. Because there are more and more XJW YouTubers. They're finding the strength, they're finding the courage to get in front of their cameras and showing everybody what a snare and a racket religion is. You know what, guys? A couple Sundays ago, I was flipping through my channels on my TV, and we have a lot of stations here locally that are, religious. And there's one channel that presents a local pastor. And this guy doesn't do the typical thing. He doesn't woo you with a suit and tie. He just wears a pair of jeans, wears a shirt, sits on a chair in a stage, and he just, talks the gospel. But something he was saying caused me to not skip through the channel. He was talking about locked doors and how he found it very bothersome to go to bed every night and having to make sure, double check that the locks in his house were locked. The doors were locked. But he looked forward to the day. He was so looking forward to the day when he wouldn't have to spend that time locking his doors in heaven. Yep, according to him, you Christians are going to die, you're going to go to heaven, and you're going to have homes that you don't need to lock your doors because there's going to be no one there to cause disturbance. How is that any different than what Watchtower presents about Paradise Earth? Look, there'll be no one there to make you tremble. Look, brothers, you can build your own house, you'll have occupancy, and you don't even have to worry about locking your doors. It's the same nonsense, except one's pictured in heaven and the other one's pictured here on earth. None of these guys, or if these guys do recognize what's going on in these pages, they're not going to tell you outright. Because the more they can lie and deceive you, because you refuse to put the time and effort to understand this book in the very best way. The very best way is for you to research it, and don't let somebody do that research for you. But see, Watchtower knows. They know all this stuff. That's why they were able to seemingly be able to strike and direct their blows over the 1914 nonsense. But see, when I first woke up, I knew right away that it was nonsense, because they took what Jesus said out of historical context and tried to make it apply to the generation of 1914. They knew what they were doing. Rutherford knew exactly what he was doing when he said religion is a snare and a racket. Because that's what it is. So Watchtower, other than being a publishing company professing to be a Christian-based religion, and nowadays a real estate corporation professing to be a religion, every single blow that you've directed, you've missed. You've lost this race. You're done. You're finished, because it's just this simple to hear you people speaking out of both sides of your mouth. It's just this simple, Watchtower. Hey, Tony, Heard, I see you. It's not that difficult when you know that you can pay more than the usual attention to what these morons are saying. So anyhow, guys, that's all I have to say about that. I hope you can glean something from this. I hope you can ultimately find your freedom away from this nonsense, because this book was put together by Constantine, a ruler of Rome, and a handful of religious rulers at the time. This was put together to keep people not only in check, but to rule and control through fear. And that's exactly what Watchtower does. They rule and control the Jehovah's Witnesses through fear, because fear is a very, very powerful mechanism, and fear, in my opinion, is probably one of the hardest things to get out of the human mind. That's why some Jehovah's Witnesses stick with it, because they're afraid of Armageddon. They're afraid of displeasing God. They're afraid of leaving Jesus. It's a snare and a racket. And all you got to do is listen to these guys speak, and you'll see it for yourselves. Thanks for watching, and have a wonderful day. Bye.